hear okay? You hear us okay?
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so I will start.
Yeah, anytime you want. So
yes. Hello, good morning, everybody. Hello, guys. So I'm Miguel Garcia. I'm working for Zabala Innovation Consulting, a Spanish company specialized in research and development and innovation funding. I'm also coordinating one of the FIWARE accelerators called FINODEX. So I would like to talk to you about possible aids or grants you may have in Europe for your startup, as well as the FIWARE Accelerate ecosystem, which I guess you already probably know a little bit about. So first thing I'm going to do is sharing my screen. Now you have seen my face, you know who I am, okay? So there we go. Can you see the presentation now?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So this is it, European funding for startups. So we're going to talk a little bit about our company first, then we'll talk about FIWARE Accelerate, we will talk about Align, which is another Accelerate program. We will talk about the SME instrument and the fast track. Okay, this is basically the summary of grants or aids you may have now in Europe for your companies. So who are we? Well, we are Zabala Innovation Consulting. Our headquarters is in the north of Spain, in Pamplona. We are around 190 employees with 8 offices all around Europe. Now also, besides Spain, also in London and in Brussels. We are a quite old company, nearly 30 years. So we've been working in the innovation field for a long time. What we do basically with our clients is analyzing the activities they do in research and innovation. We identify the financing opportunities, we develop and write the proposals, and then we manage the funding, okay? That's basically our 4-step approach. Some figures about ourselves. So, you know, the main programs for research and innovation in the European Union are have been the 7th Framework Program, which we got a quite good success for our customers. Yes, to let you know that success in the FP7 was around 15 or 12%, more or less, 12 to 15%. And now in the Horizon 2020, we have as well a quite good success rate. So talking first of all about FIWARE, I would like to introduce a little bit what FIWARE is like and etc. So if you have questions while I'm talking, please stop me and ask the question. So don't worry to interrupt. So what is happening now? The European Commission made a kind of thinking of how the ICT was changing in the past years. So 3 or 4 years ago, they realized that the overall ecosystem was changing. New trends were emerging, like big data, Internet of Things, and all the buzzwords you already know. So it was thought that the European Union should do something about it to foster their own industry in this sector. So that's the reason they create what is called the Future Internet PPP, where PPP stands for Public-Private Partnership, in which the public sector, like the European Commission and the main companies in Europe, gather all together to promote and to create a new set of technologies. It is this set of technologies what we know now as FIWARE, but in the beginning everything was the FIPPP. So this has been funded by the European Commission directly through different projects, and also by the partners or by the companies themselves putting their own money there, okay? So these are the big numbers. Who's inside? Well, as you may already know, big ICT sector like Telefónica, Telecom Italia, Orange, SAP, IBM, Atos, Engineering, and the big ones in Europe, but also research institutions, innovation managers like our company, public sector, and also big groups. So all the basic idea with this FIPPP was creating kind of platform which was composed by different open source software modules. So yes, FIWARE is open, and yes, it's free. So those are the main things you need to be aware of. What is FIWARE? When they ask me, I usually say that it's a set of open source software tools which have been promoted through different European projects. So you already know FIWARE. You can think of FIWARE of different open source software tools which are ready to be used by you for your projects and etc. So this is European technology 100%. So this was the aim of the Commission at the very beginning, create a European technology which could be used by ICT entrepreneurs and companies. And this is the situation where we are now. Okay, so the tools are divided in different chapters. We could call them security, storage, cloud, data context, and IoT. But okay, and have been tested in different vertical sectors. So basically what we have is a FIWARE lab, which is a demonstration of all these technologies, which is available for free for experimentation purposes. So if you want to register, you go to the lab.fiware.org and create an account, so you can try the resources and the possibilities that the technologies offer. But basically they are divided in different chapters, okay? So every chapter is devoted to a different kind of thing, like user interfaces, Internet of Things, data context management, which is basically big data and 2 or more things, devices, security, cloud hosting, and interface to networks and devices. So FIWARE, besides being a set of open source tools, is about promoting open standards. So there's nothing totally new in FIWARE. FIWARE has gathered the most famous, we could say, or the most typical protocols, tools, etc., that were in the market and have put them all together. So probably, and this is something that is usually said in some presentations, probably FIWARE does not bring the best technologies in the market for a specific thing, but it brings the best technologies in the sense of integration, okay? So when we're talking about cloud hosting with big data and Internet of Things, the components are meant to be together and to be linked, okay? So that's probably one of the main advantages of FIWARE. And there is also another thing, which is you see on the bottom of the slide, on the bottom right, which is FIWARE Ops. So some people want to be a node of this FIWARE lab, so they have a set of tools called FIWARE Ops, so that they can easily deploy a node of FIWARE and become a new FIWARE node in the overall FIWARE lab. Because FIWARE lab is comprised by different nodes all across Europe and also in South America. So it's a big infrastructure. So now we go to the FIWARE Accelerate, which is, I think, the most important thing for you. FIWARE Accelerate is a program that the Commission designed after the technology was more or less ready to go into the market. So first, it was funded the technology development, and once the developments were nearly done, they decided that the European Union needed users and companies to use these technologies. So they created FIWARE Accelerate as an acceleration program with 100 million euros for startups. That's a lot of money. And basically there are 16 different accelerators coordinating this big effort of acceleration all over Europe. FIWARE Accelerate started last year and it's going to be ending next summer. So the way the selection is done is through open calls. There are 16 different accelerators with their own open calls. Now they are nearly over, all of them. So in fact, there are only 2 left, which you still can apply. But during the whole process, and this data is probably a bit out of date, the idea was to gather around 1,000 companies. So where you see there these 246, at the end of the program would be around 1,000. In fact, already there were over 700 for last week. So imagine the amount of companies that are currently interested in applying here. And it's not only because of the money, it's also because of the contacts, and it's also because of the networking opportunities that such a big investment by the Commission will bring. I mean, there are, and you already know that, there are events for these startups, there are community building issues, etc. So it's not only the money, which I think is the most appealing, obviously, but there are more things than that. So this is basically one slide showing how the things are done. And now the interesting things for you is that there are 2 open calls available. First one is Impact, okay? And the second one is from Seed Tech, which is another accelerator. Basically, Impact, I guess you already had some kind of event with the people from Impact. Impact has been the most competitive call of all the calls in all the accelerators so far. So in terms of statistics, we could say it's the most difficult, but I think it's also bringing a very good projects into the market. So it's a tremendous opportunity. So conditions are really easy to understand. It's up to 100K funding without equity, and the deadline is the 15th of October. Everything is done through the funding box application. So it's basically filling a form, explaining your idea, and doing a video. And one thing I think is really important are how to get a good proposal for these accelerators. What I would recommend you is to be very clear on what you have now at this point. I mean, Impact, or the projects that Impact have already funded, are basically projects which have something done at that point. We could say if they were targeting to mobile application to the B2C, they were probably applications with some thousands of users, not a lot, but with the aim of becoming global leaders. So it is at this point where you have done something, you have a good or a promising number of users, but you want to scale up. This is the point where Impact enters into your lives, okay? And so far, all I've seen is that successful companies in Impact are these kind of companies, okay? So they're based on internet mobile apps. Other were based on other things like energy, or in our case, we were from FINODEX, we were interested in open data. So every accelerator had their own domain, but Impact is more focused on mobile apps, okay? So another thing to be aware of is that the form is really easy to complete, but as easy as it is also really easy to get wrong when doing the form. So don't underestimate never short proposals, because I think they are the most difficult, okay? So don't relax saying that, well, it's just a form I can complete in an afternoon and then I submit it and that's it. I wouldn't do that at all, okay? So it's not a very long form, but it takes time to think about good responses. And always when you write the things to explain your companies, your ideas, think on the people that is going to read them. I mean, don't put information which is not valuable. Don't write information which takes nowhere. Avoid generic sentences and things like that. Go straight to the point and prove that your company is worth to be one of the best in the accelerator you apply, okay? Another call that you have open is SeedTech, which is the accelerator, which is being managed by some companies or some accelerators in the Eastern Europe. So they basically offer two ways to join them. The first one is just a regular form to be filled, etc. But they do not oblige you to travel to their accelerator physical locations in Eastern Europe. And I guess the maximum is just 15K funding without equity, okay? But then if you want to get a higher amount, you need to be physically there. The investment could be up to $250,000, but they take equity on exchange, okay? So there are two options, up to you to decide if you want to apply there, okay?
Sorry, Miguel.
Yes.
Are they compatible to each other? So, or are they completely independent, are connected to them? So if you get SeedTech, you will not be able to be eligible to be in Impact.
If you go, this is a very good question. No double funding for any project. That means if you have different ideas, you can go with different ideas to different projects. But in principle, avoid that, because it is understood that if you have a startup, you don't have a lot of projects you can sell. So this is also, the multi-participation has been in debate during the recent weeks in the Commission as well, because there are some companies which have been very fruitful in getting the aids, but not so fruitful in executing the project. So I would recommend you to focus in one. So once you are selected, do not submit to the same one. The same idea is not going to be funded, but if you submit a different one, it could be, but it's not advisable.
Okay, are there any other open calls in the term? You think they will be open, or are these the last two ones that you will get?
I think they are the last two ones, but no, and I explain myself. The accelerators, out of these 100 million, 80 were for the startups. 20 million were for the consortium that were inside the accelerators to pay your expenses and that kind of things. But these 80 million have to be spent in the SMEs. So it happens that sometimes some of the accelerators do not spend all the money in the startups because some startups quit in the middle of the process. They don't get enough good quality projects, etc., etc. So depending amounts that are being left during the process have been used in different contests. So if, for instance, you have a look at some of the big events, like the one that is going to be in Lisbon by the end of October, and also the ECFI, which is happening in Hamburg in November, there are competitions like hackathons that are paying prices, and this money comes from these excedents from the calls. So probably if some of the calls do not spend, or the ongoing projects do not spend all the money, there will be more opportunities like this. Okay, so former open calls, like you submit a form, you get evaluated, and you do all the acceleration process. These are the two last ones, because there were some that were closing in September, so those are over, but these are formally the two last ones. But it could be the case that you have additional hackathons or contests online, etc., during the following months.
Yep. By the way, I'll be into the two events you were mentioned, the Lisbon one and the Hamburg one. So I will also update. And if you have any news we can share, that would be great. I mean, anything related to these funds. Thank you.
Okay. So this is basically for FIWARE Accelerate. And now a little bit about the ecosystem around. Okay, so when you think about FIWARE, or startups tend to think only about the money, but there are things that are important to be aware of, like the initiative called FIWARE Mundus. So FIWARE Mundus, it's a project or initiative who is in charge to promote FIWARE outside the European Union. So already FIWARE Lab has nodes in Mexico, but there are some agreements that are currently being negotiated or signed even with other places of the world. So there are good contacts with Latin America, but there are also agreements with Korea, North America, and even in Africa. Okay, so there will be also a very good presence in November, I think it is, in one smart city event in the US, because there's going to be a pretty good launch of an initiative between a thing called Ignite and the European Commission. So there are links, because the idea of the Commission is spreading the news all over the world. So FIWARE becomes a reference in the whole world, not only in Europe. So this is one of the strategic things that are being done at the moment, FIWARE Mundus. What about the future? Well, there are more things to be aware of. So first thing, there is an association from Germany who is gathering the interests of the SMEs using FIWARE technologies. This association has been created by their own founders, nothing related to the Commission. So it was people that was working in the technologies that decided to create this association. Then there is a foundation, which I hope we will have news soon. We were promised to have the opening news and that kind of thing by the end of the summer. So now we're in autumn and we're still a bit waiting. There will be some strategic things inside the foundation, because the aim is that the foundation takes care of all the FIWARE issues and all the FIWARE stuff, like the generic enablers that we saw before, or the organization structure, etc. So it's a kind of foundation, like it could be the Apache Foundation and other open source foundations all over the world. There will be also a commercial FIWARE Lab offer. When we say that, think that the FIWARE Lab at this point, it's an experimental facility comprised by different nodes all over Europe. But the idea and the business that the big companies have in this FIWARE stuff is not just being part of these programs or these European funded programs and that's it. They want to do business out of this. So they want to open commercial nodes to the general SMEs that are interested, so that the FIWARE lab is commercially exploitable as a solution by them. And some announcements were done a year ago by Atos, Orange Engineering and Telefonica on that behalf. I know Telefonica is working on providing a solution. They are currently working with cities so that FIWARE becomes a platform from different cities in Europe. But there will be also an offer for SMEs in the short term. Speed Up Europe, which was one of the accelerators, will launch a commercial node by the end of this year. So, and we have seen also other initiatives by other companies in different places in Europe that will offer cloud capabilities for FIWARE. Okay, so there will be commercial opportunities here. And there is also the Open and Agile Smart Cities initiative, the OASC, which is basically an initiative promoted by FIWARE and also cities or networks of cities in Europe, which basically is an initiative which makes the city sign a document saying that they compromise in less than a year to use some of the standards promoted by FIWARE technologies in their own cities. When we talk about standards, we talk about, for instance, the NGSI to communicate sensors in the cities with a general platform. We talk about opening data with reference models for the data, using CCAN as the platform to publish that data, etc., etc. So there were over 50 cities which have signed worldwide this agreement already, cities including in Spain, in Denmark, in Brazil even. There will be a second or a third wave of cities coming out by the end of the year. So they were talking about around 100 of cities all over the world by the end of the year committed to use FIWARE standards, which is pretty good for startups because that helps you in your development. If you develop an application for a city, then you don't have to migrate or do a lot of integration or changes when you move your product to another city because they use the same standard, the same data, and the same data models, etc. So that's a pretty good initiative. And also, this is the public funding. So basically, what we have seen in the future work programs, and here I stop a little bit, the European Commission for their public funds, they launch programs in a 2-year base. Okay, so now that 2015 is getting to an end, the funds for 2014 and 15 are going to be over. All the projects are going to be selected and funded and executed, but now we have new calls for the following 2 years. So there are some topics or some areas which have already mentioned FIWARE as the platform they want to use. So a very good effort is going to be done in the IoT. There is a special part of the programs in innovation devoted to Internet of Things. There will be 6 or 5 very big pilots all across Europe to demonstrate technologies improving IoT in different sectors, like in health or in smart water or in smart farming or smart cities. So they want to use kind of horizontal platforms for different domains, and FIWARE is one of these mentioned ones. Okay, there are 2 or 3 platforms in Europe, but FIWARE, I guess, is the one that comes with better positioning here. There are 2 specific topics for FIWARE. First one is the ICT 15, which is an initiative that seeks to continue the activities of the acceleration. So there will be more accelerators, probably 1 or 2 more, not 16. Obviously, the funding will not last forever. But also there are some tasks devoted to the continuity of the technological development. So probably new features or correcting things that are not working well in current state. So there are more funding to that. There is also a specific action with Brazil, which is the EUV number 2, which is basically doing some kind of innovation projects between Europe and Brazil, very focused on Internet of Things and smart cities. And they specifically mentioned that they want to use FIWARE for that. So that's very good. But also the Horizon 2020 is very, very big. And the good thing is that for the first time in the European Commission, FIWARE is in the preamble of many work programs. And it is said to be the platform to be connecting any kind of ICT developments in different sectors. So if you go to the health specific program, or to the energy specific program, or to the whatever specific program, you will see that there is a reference to FIWARE, which is something which had not happened before in the past. So the continuity will be there. Okay, this is for the future of FIWARE, right? Any questions so far?
Go ahead.
Okay, so another issue. Now we close the chapter of FIWARE partially, and we start talking about ODINE. ODINE stands for the Open Data Incubator for Europe. So ODINE is a Horizon 2020 project, an accelerator, comprised by different partners. The leader is the University of Southampton, but you have inside Telefonica, you have WIDA, you have the Open Knowledge Foundation Germany, you have the Open Data Institute in the UK, and they are doing a kind of acceleration program for companies interested on reusing or creating open data. So if your companies use or reuse or create open data, this is your program. So how does the funding work? They grant no equity up to 100K per project, understanding the funding as a 70%. So if you spend 100, you get 70. So basically that's the deal. The application form is pretty simple as well, 4 pages based on a template they have on their own website. The thing here is that they have different cutoff dates. So you see all the dates, which is basically every 2 months, they get all the proposals they have been, that have been submitted and evaluate them, and then get 6 to 8, depending on the quality. It is really competitive, and think that all the projects that do not make it in one cutoff date usually tend to represent to a second cutoff date. So the number of 150 could be increasing. There is a maximum of 3 opportunities to submit the same project. We made, and when I say we, I talk about FINODEX or Accelerator, an agreement with them to avoid double funding. So if you were funded by FINODEX, you couldn't be funded by ODINE. That was the thing. In theory, but sorry, this is...
You couldn't, or you could?
You couldn't.
Okay.
No double funding. So in theory, this happens with the other accelerators, okay? But there is no way or legal way to check that. So, I mean, probably if you have a project already funded by an accelerator, then you submit the same thing to ODINE. In theory, it will be ODINE, the one responsible to check that this project has not been funded by another Horizon 2020 or FP7 fund, but you never know. What else? What else about them? They have also an acceleration program afterwards, and their contacts are really at very high level. So what they are planning to do is more Horizon 2020 focus. I mean, you get the overall funding, you get some pre-financing at the beginning, but then you have to justify all the expenses with the payrolls and the tickets, and in a traditional European way. So that's the administrative part, could be a bit hard. But anyway, this opportunity is very good, and they are there. And they're very open to receive comments. So in fact, in Lisbon, in the event we were talking before, we as FINODEX are organizing with them a shared networking session, because we were the only 2 open data incubators or accelerators in Europe. Okay, so we will be there as well. So if anyone is coming, you're invited to attend. So that's ODINE. Okay, SME instrument.
Okay, let me just stop here to get everybody's attention, because I think the next one about the SME instrument, I think is going to be very important for everybody, so they can all apply to this. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
So there we go. SME instrument. This is the main, we could say, help or grant that the European Commission is offering to startups or to SMEs, very small SMEs. Okay. So Horizon 2020 is really big, and we are not entering in every single thing that Horizon 2020 has. So just think about the SME instrument as one of these boxes inside a very big drawer. So they have a special mention in the Horizon 2020, which was traditionally a program designed for research and very scientific issues. Now it's not so much, and it's more devoted, is turning into innovation. So we have this SME instrument. So where is the SME instrument in this in this graphic lying? It's close to the development phase. So we are not looking, or the SME instrument is not looking for very research projects anymore. They are looking for really impact into the market projects. So this is the main thing you have to be aware of. This is not about research, this is about innovation, and innovation means euros or making money. Okay, so SME instrument will only fund those projects that generate real impact into the market. If you want to become the world leaders of your discipline, this is your program. If you just want to do a local application for a very limited market, this is not your program. Okay, so this is to think big. And Europe wants to devote funds into the most promising technologies and projects. Okay, so this is where we need to fill that gap in this graph. So it is divided in 3 phases. The first 2 have direct funding, and the last one does not. Basically, the last one is support to access private investment. So thinking about this program as a step-by-step or a phase-by-phase program, we have a phase 1, which is a market feasibility analysis. That is phase 1. A phase 2, which is basically a demonstration, including development, including prototyping, including users' feedback gathering and things like that. So basically, phase 1 is doing the market feasibility. Can I do this? Is this going to be a very good project? Am I going to be the world leader with what I'm doing? You need some studies and some feasibility issues and doing the numbers in a proper way, etc., preparing a business plan and those things. This is done in phase 1. Once you have all that part of the job done, you start working and you do the demo activities you may need. Okay, so probably you will need some kind of development if you're doing some algorithms for your application, or you need to test a new hardware, or you need to integrate this thing and the other thing. So this is phase 2. And once everything is tested with the real users or customers, etc., then you go to private investment. Okay, so that's basically the structure they want to follow. So characteristics: innovative, technological or not, that is important. I mean, they are not looking for the best technical solution in a market. They're probably not. They're looking for the most impact technology in the market. With that, I mean that you don't need to invent the new iPad, but probably you will need to have the best commercial strategy to sell iPads all over the world. Okay, so technology here is important, but we have seen by the results that all the things that have been funded, that is not so important as it could be initially thought. And that is important, okay, because that opens the door to many, many startups. Important from any sector and covering a social need or a market opportunity. So these are not theoretical approaches. You have to be very clear on what is the need you're covering or what is the market opportunity, because if you don't have it, you cannot get it. Okay. So who are the beneficiaries? Startups, dynamic, young and mature, individually or in cooperation. So projects can be cooperative. That is 2 SMEs, 3 SMEs, whatever, or just one, okay? SME by the European Commission, there is an administrative step you have to do before you apply, which is registering in the participants portal, which is a web page promoted by the European Commission in which you declare yourself as SME. And if you get funded, you are validated as an SME. Okay, so there is an administrative step in the middle, but it's easy to register. It just take like 5 to 10 minutes. So it's just filling the forms. Who can be a beneficiary? Research entities and universities or big companies. Okay, so probably this is like, does not go to bold, but just in case. Phase 1, unsupported activities, investment in equipment, marketing and publicity, research and development activities are not covered. Remember, this is a feasibility study. So one thing it is important is that phase 1 is or has been open during the past 2 years, every 3 months with different cutoff dates. So for this year, there is just one cutoff date pending by the end of December or by the middle of December. So the proposal you have to submit is kind of 10 pages where you present the idea, the numbers, the big market opportunity, the difference you have with your competitors, why are you going to be the top leader, etc., etc., etc. Okay? So this is basically phase 1. Phase 2 is another way to access SME instrument. Usually companies that get the phase 1 approved go for a phase 2, but it is not compulsory. Okay? So phase 2 is the part of the development of the application or the project or whatever. So the maximum funding is 2.5 million. So the project is big. Funding is 70% because this is an innovation action and the rules for innovation are 70% of your expenses are funded. So the things that are covered are personal costs, some subcontracting, not a lot, some equipment, this is only the depreciation of the equipment, consumables and indirect costs, okay? You can access phase 2 directly. You write the 30 pages document because you already have a very solid business plan or because you don't want to go through phase 1, whatever, and you apply directly here. Or once you execute the feasibility study in phase 1, you go to the phase 2, okay? But everything can be combined. The type of supported activities are the ones you see there, okay? So partner search, prototype development and testing, demonstration, deep market analysis, etc., etc. So these are the important things. It is not necessary to present a phase 1 to access phase 2. And it is not necessary to present a phase 2 if phase 1 has been presented and executed. I mean, if you get the phase 1 approved, then you do the feasibility study and it turns out that you don't want to keep on with the idea or whatever, then that is fine. You will not be obliged, okay, to follow. So phase 1 and phase 2 have this cutoff date, the 16th of December. And another thing I didn't mention is that phase 1, what you get is 15,000 euros, okay, to do this feasibility study. These 15,000 euros can be used the way you want, okay? So it can be used to pay your salaries, they can be used to subcontract somebody to help you with a business plan or some coaching activities, whatever. So phase 1 is closed amount, 15,000, 50, and then the phase 2 is the one that can be up to 2.5 of funding, okay? So this is phase 1 and phase 2.
Sorry.
Yes.
Miguel, it's a quick question. You say it's funding.
Yes.
That means that you need to reimburse back anything or not? Or this is a help, you get it. So when you pay everything, you can claim back part of the money, up to 70 of the money. How is it now?
Yeah, you made a budget. In every single project for the European Commission, you prepare a budget, an overall budget. Let's say you decide to spend 100. So the European Commission, the first thing you have to add in all the forms is, one thing is the budget, let's say 100, and the second thing is the funding. which goes, depending on the call, on the rules. So in this case, the rules say that it's a 70%. Okay, so I say that my budget is 100, but the funding will be 70, right? So out of that 70, which is the money that the European Commission is going to give you, the European Commission pre-finances you part of that. Typically, now with the Horizon 2020 can be between a 30 to a 40%, okay, of that 70, right? So we're saying that the European Commission puts in front something like 20 to 30 at the beginning. And then after the execution or during the execution, depending on the length of the project, you have to justify costs. So this is the administrative part of the project, in which you gather the time that you have been devoted to the projects, which need to be reported in timesheets, the time that you have spent, the amount that you have spent with your employees, the expenses that you had because you need to do some travels or to visit the commission or some customers because of this project. So all the expenses you have are written down in a report, and out of them, 70% are funded. So what they do is just an easy subtraction between what you have been pre-finances and between what you say you have spent. So basically, at the end, they pay you the difference up to the limit of the 70.
Okay.
Okay, so it's a bit complicated to understand at first, but it's really easy. It's basically you spend 100, you get 70. As easy as that. But you have to have the supporting documents of the expenditure of these 100.
Okay.
When we say supporting documents, we talk about payrolls, we talk about the money you pay to the social security, we talk about the flying, boarding passes, the tickets, whatever, invoices. Okay, so that's basically how it works. Okay. And every single project in the European Commission can be audited after 5 years of its ending. So that means that you have to keep track of everything for 5 years after the project ends.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay, just one question. We have another question from Jonathan. Yeah, go ahead.
In this case, you have taken some equity?
No. This is all the European Commission aids are without equity. Okay, so this is public money, public funding directly paid to you. Okay.
Yeah.
More questions? Are you getting bored?
No.
Okay. So next thing I want to talk about is the fast track to innovation. This is another kind of drawer in this very big box. So the fast track to innovation is really similar to the SME instrument. Okay, one thing I forgot to point out. This is the only date that is pending between of the dates that were existing in 2014 and 15, right? But for the following years, there will be more. But the thing is that the final dates have not yet been published, okay? But expect that every 3 months, more or less, there will be cutoff dates. So this will be a program that will be continued. It will happen the same with the fast track to innovation, right? So fast track to innovation is really similar to the SME instrument. So it is also open to any kind of idea in any domain. It can be ICT, it can be health, it can be whatever. But just to summarize, this is the program which is devoted to go-to-market strategies for pretty large projects, I would say. Okay, so basically the fast track looks like a phase 2 for the SME instrument, with the difference that you need to be in a consortium here. The consortium needs to be formed by 3 to 5 partners from 3 different member states of the European Union, at least 2 industries, that is 2 companies. It does not matter if they are big or small, or if they are SME or big companies or whatever, at least 2 industries. That means that part of the consortium will be research institutions, universities, or any other, right? So they ask you for 2 companies if the consortium is 3, 4, or 3 industries if they are 5. So half of the budget needs to go to the companies, okay, and the other half to the research areas or research institutions or organizations. 60%, okay? So what's the funding like? For companies, it's a 70%, and for research institutions or universities or any other kind of organization without, for non-profit, they are 100%. So universities are fully covered and companies are not, okay? That's the deal. The funding can reach the 3 million, but typical projects are, what we have seen is that they are ranging between 2 and 3, okay? That's the main difference. It looks like a phase 2, but with more companies involved, right? So this is the project duration we usually recommend to do. So preparing a proposal for the fast track requires quite a good number of time. We say 6 months, okay? Then you have to execute that if you're approved for 1 or 2 years, and then the launch to the market in the following year. So this is important. When you get a grant from the European Commission, you sign a contract with the European Commission. And in this contract, it is said that in 3 years from the starting of the project, the product or services must be in the market. This is not said anywhere else in any other contract for research in the European Commission. So this is the only program that mentions this. And the launching of the product or service into the market goes by contract. So it's compulsory, right? The situation of the technologies does not need to be really close or really far from the market, we could say. There is an scale, the technological readiness levels, the TRLs, which means that TRL for 1 is very scientific discovery, etc., and a TRL of 9 is a very market product or service. So what we are thinking in fast tracks are TRLs of 6, okay? While in the SME instrument, we can say about 6, 7, right? So maybe the SME instrument is closer to the market. But anyway, just to have this in mind. So this is the summary in a very nice view or a very nice picture. Prepare your proposal, develop your innovation, and hit the market. That's the idea, okay? It's, as you can see, it's very similar to phase 2, right? The next cut-off date is the 1st of December, so still have time, not a lot, I would say, but maybe you have something already prepared or in mind, which you can submit. Preparing these kind of proposals takes a lot of time, especially for the fast track and especially for the phase 2 of the SME instrument, they take a lot of time, right? Probably for the accelerators and the phase 1, well, the phase 1 it takes time, but not so much, but it's something you have to be aware of, okay? And this is it. This is it. We are in all these places. I'm free for questions if you want. I'm going to put my camera on again.
So, thank you, Miguel. So the first question, will we get that presentation? Is it okay?
For sure. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. So questions from these guys. Okay. Let's see. Questions? No questions. Okay, I will try to instigate people to ask questions. Okay. So now you're a startup. Okay, Miguel, you're a startup and you're thinking about getting funded.
Yeah.
Which way, a technology startup, which way will you go? You're into the middle, in the middle of everything regarding Fiverr, regarding the SMEs instrument, everything. Which way will you take in order to try to get money into your company?
Okay, if I were them, or if I were a startup, I will start with the easy ones. That is, the accelerators that are already available. Because they are a very easy door to knock at the commission and get the money, okay? Because basically that's what you need now. As a second step, I would go for an SME instrument, for sure. The small one, the phase 1, because it's 50K that will help you a lot to focus your business. It takes a bit more time to prepare the thing, but if you're successful, it's a very good presentation letter for other opportunities. And then once you get all that funding, I will not forget about a fast track or a phase 2, if you really need development issues. Okay, so my recommendation here, go for the easy, and I say easy in this way, go to the easy things first, because they take you less time, and I guess all the startups, what you need now is not to be focused on writing proposals, but on doing the things you have to do. So go for the easy things first.
Okay, and correct me if I'm wrong. For the first phase of the SME, you need no money at all, because they will give you the money straight away. For the phase 2, you need to put ahead money yourself out of your pocket and then claim back, right? From
yes. The thing is that we see in that way. For the SME instrument, you need to have the SME established, legally established. That is a VAT number existing in Spain or in whatever country you are. So that's the first administrative step. You need the SME. In some cases, the accelerators from FIWARE didn't require that. So even with an idea coming from entrepreneurs without the startup established or legally established, they could submit and get funded. Okay, so that's a big difference. So first thing, set up the legal structure for the SME. The second thing about the money, if you go for the phase 1, you don't need anything. You just receive the 50K and you use it as you want. That's it. For the phase 2, yes, you need to do some investment, but it is your own expenses. I mean, if the European Commission tells you that you're going to receive €1.5 million, I think that's the problem of spending that money could be a problem that I would like to have, to be honest. Yeah, because basically it's your own resources. With that amount of money, what the idea is that a company with 2 or 3 founders get around 20 people for a year, 20 people working for them.
Yeah, but that means also that you will only get 70% of the running expenses that you will need it. You need to be having also these 30% cover. So if you're going to be asked for, if you're going to be granted for 1.5 million euros, you need at least another 600,000 to put on top that is going to be burned.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Why? Because for every single euro you spend on a direct cost, that is personnel, travel, whatever, it has an invoice, but subcontracting. So for every euro you spend there, you get a 25% directly of indirect costs approved with no justification at all. So that means that it's only a 5% of the thing that needs to be covered by your own resources. So
I didn't get that 25%. You got it. Is it because of the tax, or is it because of the way?
No, it is because it is the way it is. I mean, if you spend 100 euros in salaries, the European Commission automatically approves you 25 more for indirect costs. Okay. And out of this 100 plus 25, a 70% is funded. So basically, they are funding you for the indirect cost, which is something that usually programs do not do.
Okay.
An indirect cost can be something like the rental of your office. If you're in a free place, well, up to you. The money you spent on your telephone, these kind of things. Okay.
Okay. If you were an SME right now, would you go also to try to get the money from the government, like ENISAs and some others, equity-free money, but they are loans also?
Yeah.
You need to pay back, or?
If you can do that, because they are easy to access than a European program. When we talk about these programs, think that the approval rate is barely at 10%. So, I mean, it's very low and it's very difficult to get that funds, really difficult, okay? So we are not selling anyone the the Holy Grail or something like that. This is there are very difficult programs to enter. So if you have access to cheap loans, go ahead. I mean, you need to scale up fast, which is, I guess, the aim of all the startups. So why not?
Okay. Have I stimulated you early Monday morning? Do you have any other questions, or no? Will you keep it like that? Okay. So I don't think we have any questions, Miguel.
Okay.
I will have many, and I will call you up after that. But that is more related to the IHABs and all the other things we're doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So.
Okay.
Thank you, Miguel. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Gracias.
Nada.